My name is John Webster, and I'm going to talk to you about the ChurchCare Conservation Grants Programme. Our 16,000 parish churches house a wealth of objects, for the most part freely accessible to the public. Our Conservation Grants Programme supports the preservation of this ecclesiastical heritage. We have two main grant schemes, one for the conservation of historic church interiors and churchyard structures, and one for conservation reports. Please note, we do not fund fabric repairs. Only open Anglican parish churches in England are eligible for grant aid. The following slides will show the range of objects covered by our grant schemes. All examples are taken from projects that we have funded. Our first encounter with a church may well be the sound of a bell. The bell on the right with the broken cannons, or loops, dates back to the 15th century. A large crack has been welded and the bell is now ready to be rehung. Bells may well be sounded by a turret clock, marking out time. This example was made in 1614. It operates a carillon that can play one of 5 tunes at selected hours. The tunes were originally hymns, but in 1754, a popular song of the time, "The Captain with his whiskers took a sly glance at me," was substituted for one of the hymns. Before entering the church, you may chance upon a collapsed boundary wall, a lich gate in a state of disrepair, or this wonderful bale chest tomb in need of conservation. It is important to note that to be eligible for funding, churchyard structures must be individually listed. You may enter the church through a medieval door, such as the one on the left. You may an object, such as this 14th century effigy of a knight. Both objects have received grants for initial conservation reports and the conservation work. We also fund the conservation of monumental brasses and decorative metalwork. Monuments, stained glass, textiles and books, paintings and wall paintings, and organs and organ cases. So how much funding do we provide? In 2019, we made awards totaling £275,000 to 110 projects across 29 dioceses. We award grants of up to £10,000, but grants are usually smaller. In 2009, the average grant was £2,500. On average, a grant comprised 13% of total project costs. We aim to support as many parishes as possible, and the application success rate is high, around 65% on average. We consider ourselves seed funders, so parishes do not have to have raised any funds before applying to ChurchCare. Grants for conservation work should be claimed within 2 years of award, and grants for conservation reports should be claimed within 6 months of award. We have a low failure rate. 95% of funded projects are successfully completed. Who funds us? Our two main funders are the Pilgrim Trust and the Radcliffe Trust. Both provide annual block grants. We are also supported by a number of other funders, notably the Goldsmiths Company and the Anglican Parish Churches Fund. So why do they fund us? We run 6 conservation committees made up of 50 experts drawn from the heritage sector. We also rely on a wider network of support that includes DAC advisors, church architects, and other professionals. These structures ensure checks and balances and a rigorous process, encouraging and rewarding good practice and raising standards. In addition, the programme supports heritage skills and capacity building in the conservation sector. It is a low-risk, high-impact programme that engenders confidence and trust. So, what criteria do we use when assessing applications? There are three main criteria. We fund the conservation of objects of special historic, architectural, archaeological or artistic interest. Faculty will usually be required for work to these objects. Applicants must make the case for the objects in their statements of significance. Applicants must be able to demonstrate that the objects are in need of conservation in their statement of needs. We prioritise objects in urgent need of conservation. We do not fund works of a cosmetic nature only, for example, cleaning. Proposals must be appropriate and follow best practice. Conservation reports should be prepared in accordance with our guidelines, which are available on our website. So how are you doing? The map on the left shows the churches that have been funded through our Conservation Grants Programme in 2018 and 2019. The different coloured dots represent the different schemes. The map on the right shows the number of projects supported within each diocese. The darker the colour, the higher the number of awards. Here are a few tips for applicants. Contact me as early as possible. I am happy to provide advice and support before and after applications have been submitted. Applications for conservation reports can be made throughout the year, but parishes will only have one opportunity to apply for grants for the conservation of clocks, bells, stained glass, paintings and wall paintings. For other objects, there are 2 rounds per year. Parishes do not have to have obtained faculty before applying for a grant. Applying for a conservation report is straightforward and decisions are usually notified within a month of application. We require statements of significance and needs, images of the object, and an estimate for the cost of the report. A good quality conservation report, prepared in accordance with our guidelines, will improve a parish's chances of receiving grant aid for the conservation work. There is no recognised accreditation scheme for bell hangers, and very few turret clock contractors are accredited by the Institute of Conservation. There is an accreditation scheme for organ builders run by the Institute of British Organ Builders, and we would expect applicants to use builders that are appropriately qualified. For the other programmes, paintings, stained glass, monuments, etc., there is an accreditation scheme run by the Institute of Conservation, and again, we would expect applicants to use appropriately qualified conservators. Details of accredited conservators can be found on the Conservation Register website. Here are the grant deadlines for 2020 and 2021. Please note that decisions are notified between 2 and 3 months after the deadlines. Work must not start before decisions are notified. Thank you for listening.